committed so many atrocities across the world. So many Muslims were murdered or displaced because of US wars and bombs. They committed genocide towards indigenous people, yet they are still considered as the beacon of democracy, the beacon of human rights defender. They must have a really powerful propaganda skill. So how is that possible?
There's an assumption that when the West acts, it acts to uphold high values. So, for instance, when the West goes into wars, it's about human rights, it's about promoting democracy and so on. The West doesn't go into wars to commit war crimes, and we know this. We know that this sensibility exists, Jingjing, because after the NATO bombing of Libya, many of us sent letters to NATO asking NATO for clarification about the nature of the bombing. Well, NATO doesn't have to respond to a journalist from India. I understand that. But the United Nations also asked NATO, and so did Human Rights Watch. And NATO's lead lawyer, Peter Olson, wrote them back on the record, saying essentially, he said the following. He said that, look, I'm glad you're doing an investigation of inadequacies in war, let's not call them war crimes, whatever. But he wanted to be clear. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, never commits war crimes. Never. That's it. So we don't need to investigate us. We never commit war crimes. That's an interesting attitude. How do you know that? I mean, particularly given that at the same time as this was occurring, people were going through the State Department cables and the Pentagon materials released by Chelsea Manning through the WikiLeaks organization, and there was direct evidence of war